So if you've gotten to this video, you have probably watched the part 1, my Foxwoods vlog. If somehow you haven't watched that video yet, I will leave a card up here, maybe it's over here, and I'll leave a link in the description as well so you can watch that first, so this one will make a little more sense. In the video, I talk about an experience I had with a player at Foxwoods. There was question about whether maybe this player was scamming or angling in some way or another.
I'm really curious what you guys have to say about this guy. Was he completely scamming? Was he just trying to promote his Twitch stream?
There was actually a comment on the video that explained the person was probably Ryan Stryker, who goes by Donkgasm online, and that he was an ACR Stormer and gave some information about how they use affiliates and are streamers on Twitch. Recently, the community manager of the ACR Stormers reached out to me and wanted me to confirm that this was in fact who I played with, and it definitely was Ryan. And we decided to have a quick chat on Skype just to kind of clear things up, since Ryan's perspective on what happened was different than kind of what my experience was at the time. So I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit about what we talked about and kind of clear a few things up, kind of talk about how my perspective has changed. So Ryan gave me a little bit of context around what his situation was at the time of that video. He was gearing up for a move, and so he'd been spending a lot of money, having to move funds around to different, accounts and what have you. He was on a must-move table before he came to my game, where he was stuck a couple of buy-ins. Pretty standard stuff, makes sense. He'd reached his ATM withdrawal limit. Not a huge deal for someone who, plays poker a lot, is used to the swings. But that does explain kind of, his situation with the bank and needing to call them. And I'm sure plenty of you out there have had that kind of experience before as well. So the piece that was probably the most confusing was when somebody came up to the table and asked him for his autograph. And from my perspective, he signed it, didn't know the person, but later on, the guy came back and it seemed like they were friends.
That was the same guy. What? No, it wasn't. That was the same guy for sure. The guy that asked for his autograph just came up and was like nonchalantly like, yo, you want to grab food? Like their best friend.
Turns out it was his friend. His friend's name is Mark. And effectively, Mark was kind of trolling Ryan by asking him for his autograph. Ryan tells me that he wrote an expletive instead of his name for the autograph and just sent him on his way. Mark was also playing and was within earshot, so Ryan kind of just continuing the trolling, sending it back at Mark, decided to just, when I asked him if he was famous.
Hey, so are you famous?
He just kind of took it in stride, didn't kind of out his friend as being the one who had asked him for the autograph. And it was pretty much just a show, for his friend, which, again, pretty common, not that weird. We talked a little bit about whether maybe Ryan should have told us that it was his friend after the fact. I think that's up for debate. He doesn't necessarily owe us that explanation, and we didn't ask him if he knew the person directly. So it's understandable that he wouldn't go out of his way to explain it to us. But if you guys think otherwise, and maybe it should have been kind of said explicitly, you can feel free to let me know in the comments. I think a big point of this is that he did not do this deliberately for any kind of image. He mentioned that people actually do come up to him sometimes, and ask him if he's Donkgasm or say that they like his stream. And that makes sense to me. I have a very small YouTube channel right now, but I still have met a bunch of you guys when you come up and say hi, when you recognize me. So I don't think that that's necessarily inconsistent with the kind of image that he would have had on any other normal day. So again, I don't think it's necessarily his responsibility to tell us otherwise, basically, about his friend. I also want to reiterate a point that may have gotten lost in kind of how I was describing the situation the first time around. Ryan never asked for money.
He says he's having trouble withdrawing money from his ATM, so he's got to call his bank soon. Now, he's not really saying this to me or to the guy in seat 10. He's just kind of saying it. They come back maybe an hour later. He doesn't ask for money.
He did mention a couple of times, mostly to himself, that he was going to have to call his bank or he was having problems with the ATM. but never once did he directly say to me or imply that he was going to need money from me or anyone else at the table. I just want to make that very, very clear. Another thing that came up in my video was the fact that Ryan's Twitter is pretty small, and some question about, whether that meant he could be a legitimate large Twitch streamer. Those two things are not necessarily related. I myself I have a pretty small footprint on Twitter relative to my YouTube presence, and those two things are not related at all. And the comment on the first video that mentioned Ryan's name stated a couple things about the ACR Stormers and applied them directly to Ryan, but a couple of these things were out of context and or not relevant to Ryan, so I want to clear a couple of those things up as well. First of all, Ryan had a separate sponsorship deal directly with ACR that was not initiated through the ACR Stormers. This involved him streaming exclusively for ACR and involved him getting a decent portion of his buy-ins paid for by ACR. And it was also not linked to getting affiliate signups for ACR. The Stormers are also streamers, but they don't have to stream exclusively ACR. They can stream whoever they want. They're mostly based on affiliate signups. Ryan was asked to join the Stormers by ACR in addition to the relationship that he already had. This was not something that kind of came first. This was an ongoing relationship he had, and that was something that ACR decided. They wanted him to be a Stormer, and so he did. So at this point, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind Ryan was not trying to scam. He was not trying to be underhanded in any way. And frankly, he wasn't even trying to create any kind of image or, angle at the table. He and I kind of both agree that the one transgression that he may have had was kind of talking himself up a little bit more than, I guess, made sense to given the context, and maybe missing a couple of conversational cues. Both he and the Stormers community manager have apologized to me far beyond what I felt was necessary, and Ryan specifically apologized to me for being dismissive of my YouTube channel. He's actually following along now, and his support is appreciated, of course. I don't have any ill will towards Ryan, the Stormers, or ACR, and frankly, I felt like the whole situation was handled really politely and professionally, and I was really impressed. So thanks again, Ryan. Really appreciate you taking the time to kind of clear the air with me. It was really a pleasure to kind of meet you again the second time, and I can sincerely say I look forward to running into you again. Who knows? Maybe I'll even get your autograph.